ここアルゼンチンの競技場から驚異の特殊効果が生まれようとしています。
A major international event will be filmed with just a few hundred extras and the powerful tool of computer image processing.
We don't want someone to look at it and say that's great animation. We want them to say, wow, that's a great event.
Okay, here we go, folks!
And on location in San Francisco, filmmakers are relying on computers to help create flying spirits.
This shot has been called around here the hardest wire removal known to man.
And transferring souls. Welcome to the world of digital enhancement, where you can shoot a movie about baseball without a baseball. And where it's often what you don't see that counts. Coming up, we'll see how digital enhancement is changing the way movies are made. Join us for an eye-popping experience next on Movie Magic. The romantic comedy Heart and Souls begins with a fatal bus crash and four spirits determined to stay on Earth a little longer. The challenge for the visual effects team is to make the unearthly actions of the spirit characters appear realistic.
Well, I didn't ever see Heart and Souls as a real special effects, quote-unquote, movie with lots of glitzy effects. I wanted to tell the story as simply and as purely as possible.
Okay. Director Ron Underwood's credits include City Slickers and Tremors.
Since Ron wants the effects to be subtle and unobtrusive, it makes everyone's job a little bit more difficult.
Visual effects supervisor Julia Gibson works closely with Ron to design his vision of the movie's numerous effects. For many of these effects, Julia turned to Pacific Data Images, or PDI, which has used digital technology to create innovative visual effects for television commercials and music videos. In 1990, PDI ventured into the world of feature films, building one of the first high-resolution film scanners. This enabled them to input live-action film into the computer, manipulate the images, and output the finished images back onto film with no appreciable degradation of picture quality. The scanner translates each frame of film into a series of ones and zeros, representing the color of each pixel in the frame. Pixel is an abbreviation of picture element and is a computer term which refers to a single microscopic point of information in a picture. The computer operator, or animator, can change any pixel's color and location. When the digital information is printed back out to film, the original picture is now digitally enhanced with the animator's changes. PDI was founded in 1980 by Carl Rosendahl.
I think we broke a lot of ground and, as importantly, educated a lot of people about what the capabilities of the computer are and what kind of freedom that gives them.
PDI became a trendsetter in the specialized field of digital enhancement.
As for our track record...
The results of PDI's expertise can be seen in Sleepwalkers, in which actors were transformed into monstrous creatures, and Toys, for which PDI created animated skeletons seen through a fanciful X-ray machine.
These magnetic tubes...
Because digital technology is still developing, each project requires new techniques for solving new problems.
That's one of the things that's so fun about this whole industry, is that you can't anticipate everything you're going to need to be able to do for the next project or the project after that.
For Heart and Souls, PDI's Jamie Dixon will supervise the creation of the digital effects, with the help of as many as 12 animators working over a 5-month production period.
It would certainly be fair to break down the work that we're doing in Heart and Souls into 3 different categories. There's the addition of items to a picture, there's the subtraction of items from a picture, and there's the manipulation of various elements to create a visual effect.
One of the most frequent uses of digital subtraction in motion pictures is for wire removal. Before this process was available, performers in flying rigs were supported by very thin wires. While these wires tended to be invisible on film, they were prone to snap, making flying effects dangerous for the performers involved. It is now possible to use larger and safer wires in flying rigs because they can be completely erased digitally. PDI can draw on an abundance of past experience with digital subtraction.
A good example is the shot of Arnold driving his motorcycle into the drainage ditch in T2. For safety reasons, that stunt was done with the motorcycle suspended from a pair of cables running on some kind of a runner pulley above them. The camera could see, of course, this giant pulley and the wires, and okay, so it's not so dramatic when you see that he's gently lowered into the drainage ditch. We were then asked to use the computer to remove that aspect of the frame. The technique involves using the computer to basically predict what should be visible behind the wire and then put that over the top of the wire.
While the procedure sounds simple, PDI spent several years developing and refining their wire removal process. On location in San Francisco, the crew of Heart and Souls is flying 4 stunt people high above the city streets.
So this shot has been called around here the hardest wire removal known to man.
Amy Slate, a senior animator at PDI, has been assigned to this scene.
It has lots of wires. They cover the entire shot. It's a long shot. There's a moving camera and moving people. There's sparks, there's flashes, there's smokes. The wires cross people. Every possible problem that you can imagine in this shot is in this shot.
Using PDI's proprietary software, Amy spends several days meticulously taking the wires out of the picture. But that's only the first step.
In this particular frame, the main area which it doesn't resolve is the place where the wires cross over. It's a very interesting detail, which is this person's face. So what I can do is I can grab a little bit of his face from before the wire crosses that section and paste it over the next frame. And here's what that looks like. The one area that still bothers me is Harrison's face. What I've started doing is I'm painting Harrison by hand for the section that's really bad, which is where he turns his head right there.
On his face.
Yeah.
Digital enhancement is taken one step further when the Souls flying turns to streaking.
What the animators did is they went and they outlined the various parts of the body. Off of each of these lines, the computer would render a shape which was kind of flowing back and gently kind of blowing behind each of the people that was flying.
Thanks to the magic of digital enhancement, in the finished shot, the wires are nowhere to be seen as the 4 spirits fly through San Francisco. Digital technology is frequently utilized to add key elements to important scenes. For example, the baseballs PDI added in The Babe turned this actor into an ace pitcher.
With all the time in the world, we can make that ball go exactly from his hand to the catcher's glove.
In addition to baseballs, PDI added upper decks to present-day ballparks to transform them into historic parks that no longer exist, and even added crowds to the empty stands. In Heart and Souls, digital addition enabled the filmmakers to continually improvise during shooting.
Many times Jamie would have an idea about changing a camera position or changing an action to help sell the effect that much more.
An example of this improvisation is the scene in which Robert Downey Jr. is attacked with a fireplace poker. Watching the scene is Julia, the translucent soul played by Kira Sedgwick.
It was actually Jamie Dixon who came to me while we were doing this and suggested, how about if the fire poker goes through Julia, who's standing right next to Marco?
so the poker was set aside and the scene shot without it. PDI will render the missing poker digitally and then composite it with the live action picture.
So this is the sequence without anything that we've added. And then here's a sequence where I have started to add the 3D element of the poker.
Ken Bielenberg is one of several PDI animators working with Jamie Dixon on Heart and Souls.
This is the poker that was shot in the picture. So once I had this, I measured it and made sure I got the right dimensions, and then built that model on the computer.
Ken then goes through the shot frame by frame, following what would be the end point of the poker. He positions the digital poker to track the end point. The result is a computer-generated object that looks and moves like the real thing. Even more than digital addition and subtraction, PDI is best known for its innovation in the realm of digital manipulation.
A real good example of that actually is the David Byrne music video that we did called She's Mad. It's kind of related to the morphing technology where you distort one image into another as you transform from one to the next. And if you take that kind of to an extreme, you can really get some very fun things to happen to that live action picture.
Digital manipulation will be used to create Heart and Soul's most dramatic effect, a soul transfer.
A soul transfer refers to a soul entering the character Thomas's body, which they can do, and then he becomes somewhat like them.
The two characters are shot separately, but in the same setting. PDI then digitally separates the soul character from the background and uses this element to create the illusion of that person disappearing into Robert Downey Jr.
One of the layers is actually a morph. So this is about halfway through the process, and this is actually a morph of Julia to Thomas.
Animator Barbara Meyer is mixing multiple layers to create a soul transfer. The different layers are animated separately so that they fade in, stay for a while, and then fade out. This gives the effect a feeling of flow and motion, so that Julia appears to have momentum going into Thomas.
Very quiet, please, for the rehearsal.
When one of the souls leaves Downey's body, the result is a soul separation. This effect caps off a key scene where Harrison, Charles Grodin's character, finally overcomes his fear of singing in front of a large audience. The setting is a B.B. King concert.
From this point on, the singer's really into it. Now he's like really conducting you.
After singing the national anthem in the person of Robert Downey Jr., Harrison takes a bow and then steps out of Downey's body.
I'd like to be a little more sharp
On the rise
stand. We basically had both of the actors go through the same motion each time, giving them counts, bow, 1, 2, 3, stand, that type of a thing, to work out the pacing so that it would feel like it was happening at the same time.
The typical problem with shooting an effect shot like this is that it's hard to see exactly how the two shots will go together.
So what we're doing is just quickly putting the pieces together, and the end result is a little version of the final shot. And within a couple of days of having shot this material now, I can go back to the director and say, is this what you were thinking?
Tell them that people practice for months to do that. We're going to have to do this in 10 minutes. Okay.
The magic of digital enhancement will allow director John Clive to create an Olympic-sized event with just 200 audience members. A stadium in Argentina will be transformed for the groundbreaking television commercial that would be far too expensive to actually stage.
The reason that I think it was successful is because without digital technology, it wouldn't have been made. Even if it were to be able to have been afforded, we were able to change and alter things differently than you would have been able to do if you shot it for real.
Robert Greenberg is president of New York-based RGA Digital Studios. With a reputation for innovative applications of computer animation, RGA was a natural choice for this breakthrough commercial. The small group of extras will be used for the close-up shots. The wide shots will combine computer graphics with live action crowds from a real soccer match.
The first thing we had to do was prepare the stadium. There were some people sitting in the stands, but not all the seats were filled, and we moved crowds of people around in order to fill the stadium.
Computer graphics director Joseph Francis will work with 2 other RGA animators during the 8-week production. They utilize digital subtraction to remove tunnels and other unwanted parts of the stadium. Digital addition is used to add a cityscape and stars. The most important computer-generated addition will be 3,000 to 4,000 cards that form each of the huge photographs.
We had to go through a number of steps in order to make the cards work within the stadium. Generally speaking, the stadium had 2 kinds of sections to it. One was a straight section and one was a curved section.
For the straight section, Joe creates a grid of cards that can be tipped back in perspective so that it matches the angle of inclination of the seats. For the curved section, because the rows have more seats as they go up, an overlapping brick pattern must be created for the cards. Still photos are taken of each shot, which will later be formed by the stadium card sections. The 35mm film is then scanned onto a photo CD. This converts it to a digital format. The creative team can color correct and manipulate the photos while maintaining picture quality.
Now, one of the problems that we have with this photograph is the expression on the little girl's face. Anything you could suggest?
Okay, I do have a head from the other shot that we liked. Why don't we try to substitute that into this shot? Okay, now we're moving the head into position.
After each photo is approved, it is texture mapped onto the computer-generated cards. Texture mapping allows graphics to be digitally glued onto a computer-generated object and remain attached as that object moves.
Not only was the imagery computer-generated, but the motion was computer-generated. The biggest challenge of this project was achieving motion, which was believable because our first tests were very rigid, they were very precise and machine-like, and it was very obvious that it was the result of computer animation.
The basic model for an individual card's movement is defined, including parameters for the speed, rotation, and height of the card as it is lifted.
And we used the computer to vary all of the individual parameters of that lift so that we gave the impression that the cards are being lifted by people of different heights, at different speeds, at different times.
To make the card sections appear more realistic, Joseph programs the computer to randomly turn over certain cards extra late or even upside down. The animators are able to control the degree of randomness in any area of the card section. This enables them to preserve clarity in the detailed areas of the photograph while allowing other sections to be more chaotic. With the addition of computer-generated shadows and fireworks, the live-action film and digital graphics blend together convincingly. The result is a powerful visual story made possible by the advances in digital enhancement.
If you want to see where feature film is going and what it's going to look like, all you have to do is look at where digital video is today. That same technology will come into the feature studio filmmaking process, and it'll change it dramatically the same way it did for advertising.
Yeah, but then you start moving out so that he can come up and over. Because I don't want to leave Robert down for an inordinate amount of time.
That's your first time.
Whether filmmakers are creating commercials or movies, the power of digital effects means greater freedom and flexibility.
I had an original concept or vision for all of the effects. I did storyboards, And then in working with PDI, they would try things. And when I'd see it on screen, we were able to make subtle changes and improve the effect to make it better than I ever imagined in my mind even sometimes.
It gives us a remarkable ability to get the very best performance or to even alter the performance of the actors. In one shot, they were able to make one of the actors blink when he actually didn't blink at the precise frame that they made him blink.
I don't think we're quite there where anything is possible. I think we will get there. More than what's possible, it's what's practical. You know, what is really a good application for the tools to manipulate reality beyond what the camera can really see and to kind of add that fantastic twist to it that makes us as moviegoers, you know, really pop our eyes up and go, wow.
In the hands of special effects wizards at digital studios like PDI and RGA, the computer has become a powerful tool, offering unlimited possibilities to filmmakers and bringing new creativity to the world of movie magic.